This is WT for TST, and today we're honoured to be joined by Robbie Davies Jr. How are you, pal?
I'm good, thanks. You're okay?
Yeah, mate, spot on. Good Christmas?
Yeah, it actually was, seeing as the circumstances, and I'm back and forth from Sheffield with training a lot, but I've actually enjoyed Christmas a lot, especially with the newborn and all the little Christmas antics, what you do for them. So I've enjoyed it, yeah.
Mate, you have no idea as yours get older, mate. I've got
Yeah, I know.
three girls, mate, but yeah, no, brilliant, mate. Really good. We were the same, actually. I was quite surprised. Not surprised how good it was, but the fact that we had nobody round and stuff, it was just us five. It was very different for us, but yeah, brilliant, mate. Really good. Right, let's get into this. So,
Yeah.
First time at TST, what we like to do is know a bit more about you, really. So, go back to your childhood to start with. So, how was growing up in Liverpool?
I'd say I had a pretty basic childhood, to be honest. I lived with my mum and dad. Got to a certain age, my dad had put me into like football and groups like that, and then like most kids, you just want to be a footballer. I was saying this before we even started. I heard you saying about footballers. Like I was one of them. In school, I wouldn't say I wasn't naughty, but I wasn't one of them that stuck to the tasks. I was a bit of a class clown, if you would. Do you know what I mean?
You were a cheeky, weren't you? I could tell you were a
Yeah.
cheeky one.
I bent the rules as much as I could, but I was petrified of my mum and dad as well, so I couldn't bend them too much. So, and then I think just like in Liverpool, I think everyone at some point, especially lads, walk into a boxing gym at some point. And I think I was late, to be honest. I think I went in about 15, but my dad had already obviously showed me bits of boxing, and so I walking into a gym, I knew more than someone else that'd be walking into a gym at the same time. And then once they got the feel and your name goes down on the register and all that, they were like, "Why? By any chance, do you know what another Robbie Davies?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's my dad." But I'd never really followed my dad's career growing up, so I didn't know if he was any good or he was just a boxer or whatnot. And then next minute, I think it was in 3 months, I was going into my first competition of being in the ring. I went into the novices after like 3 months, junior novices, and then ended up winning. Ended up winning them. I'm just laughing now. Sorry, I can hear me missus screaming in the background, battering the baby. She's going woo, and I'm just thinking,
It's all right, mate. We heard everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So then from then on, I was doing a bit of the football and a bit of the boxing, and then I was never really took by either of them though. I was more like stand at the shops with the lads. So up until my early 20s, I was one of them. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't really fussed on anything, and then I knew the football. I'd gone past the year of getting your YTS, so I knew that weren't happening unless you were going to be a very late contract. But you'd be lucky if you got one of them nowadays. And then,
were you decent?
Yeah, I was all right. To be fair, I was a decent player, but when you get like a trial and things like that, and you never get in, and then you start falling. And the next thing, I got picked for England in the boxing because I won like the junior ABAs, and that like swayed me. Then I just went completely boxing. Then I thought, wow, been picked for England, got an England vest, stuff like that. And the next thing, I was fighting more and more regularly for England. The next minute, they were taking me on internationals to like Germany, France, and some of the people I fought as amateurs are good pros now as well. Do you know what I mean? We're all in different weights, but I was always thinking figuring out, because I was a late bloomer, I might have only had 20 amateur fights, and I'd be fighting an international who'd had 100. I remember fighting one lad from France called El Moussalai Hamad. He's fought Jeff Horn and the likes of them. Now he's from France. He was just too experienced for me at the time, way too experienced. Literally every time he hit me, the crowd were going, "Wait, wait." I was like, "Oh my God, I'm getting pinged." But I just took it in my stride as a kid, because I used to just take the amateurs as your learning process, because I think I always knew I wanted to be a professional once I got to a certain age. on the other hand as well, I was thinking I'm not good at anything else, so I've basically got to be a boxer.
So you're in. Going back to when you first walked in the junior setup, like you said, I think about 15, I think you said, and you mentioned that people said, "Oh, do you know this other guy called Rob?" Does that ever, because it's your dad, but does that ever put pressure on you? Did that ever put pressure on you?
No, because my dad was never really one to put pressure on me in the boxing. He was he wanted me to stick to me football. He used to say the boxing was like a too hard a game. Do you know what I mean? Because like when my dad was a boxer, he burnt the candle at both ends. He trained hard, but he lived hard as well. Like he'd be out on the lash and then be fighting the next week. So he used to say to me, like, you don't get a life what you a youth like what you'll want if you're going to stick to this boxing. And then as I got older, I still wasn't super dedicated as an amateur anyway. Because like what he was saying, I was still standing at the shops with the lads, thinking we were the boys. Do you know what I mean? And then I don't know when it was. It was just when I was about 21. Just the penny dropped, and I just thought, I need to get a move on with my life. Like I'm standing here with some kids that are like 4 or 5 years younger than me, and I still hadn't got a move on. And then next minute, I probably started taking the boxing serious, and then I started getting more international, started winning more titles, and then I think I was 22 or 23, and I knew I was going to turn professional. And then I got to the ABA final, and I got a decision against me from a kid from London. In London, it went to three judges. The 2 neutral judges went for me, and the 3 London judges went for him. But like the majority of people in the York Hall thought I'd won. And I said after that, you know what, I'll never box as an amateur again, because I was like that disheartened. And then all I was thinking about then was like trying to maneuver myself to get into where people could see me as a professional, because I say this to people now, if you're an amateur turning professional and you're a bit of an underachiever, or you've gone just under the waistline a bit and no one really knows you, as well as someone like the GB lads and stuff like that, it's going to be an hard journey to get yourself from like dinner shows and small hall shows to Sky Sports or BT Sports or ITV Sports or Channel 5 or something along them lines. Do you know what I mean? And when I literally just duck and dive all the way through my early years just till I got up there. And then once I've got there now, like I've stayed there luckily enough, and it's been a blessing for me.
What is the advice you'd give to them guys then? You talk about people coming through and stuff. What would you say to them if you weren't, if you didn't ever get onto the GB squad or whatever? How would you? What is the best way to do it?
Well, if you don't have to have been like, because I've seen kids who've been on GB and they haven't made it as pros, so you don't have to be a GB fighter to make it. But I think when your early years turn professional, one of the main things, if you're gonna like live it and not have it as part time, you need good sponsors. Because that has definitely been a big factor in my career. Like I've been luckily enough to I was blessed with the gift of the gab. So
no.
So I've always been lucky with like sponsors and things like that, and I think that's an important part. And if you can, obviously, you've got to be able to do a bit, and you've got to have something about you as well. Like I've seen many of fighters who like they've got nothing about them, but they're good fighters, and they just don't catch the eye of the public. Don't get me wrong, there's 1 or 2 that like might be quiet as a mouse, but if they hit you, they'll knock you into next week. So they've got the benefits of the doubt, them type of kids. But if you're not, you've got to have something that gets you noticed.
We were talking before we came on about I was talking about TikTok and social media for my girls and all that kind of stuff. I think that's a huge part now, and I'm not saying it's a good part, by the way, but
yeah,
a lot of fights now are made over bloody social media, aren't they? Do you know? So
yeah, definitely. Like I've probably quietened down a lot on social media because I don't go on Twitter as much, because I used to feel like every time I went on, someone else was calling me out, but they were never like, I was never getting called out by anyone worth fighting. It was always like someone who was well below me, and I was just like, I'm not bothered. I just ignored them. Do you know what I mean? Like if someone from America, a world champion, was calling me out, I'd be like, wow, go ahead. I'd be made up, yeah.
Right, mate. 2013, 7th of June. It was a Friday. You make your professional debut against a guy called Carl Allen. Ended in a first round victory, retired. That's some debut, is it not?
Yeah, do you know what? I always remember that debut because, like, at the time I was with Dave Coldell, he was my first manager, and he come into the back room and they said, like, just letting you know, Rob, because it was same day weigh-in, and I'd sold hundreds of tickets, and they went, he's weighed in like £9 heavy or something like that. And I was like, what? And then next minute, we seen him walk past the door, and he was a little fat fella. And I was like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We'll take it anyway. I was like, he wouldn't hit me with a bag of rice. Do you know what I mean? So
then I started to look at your career and stuff. And I know it's an interesting stat. So in your first 10 fights, right, you either knocked them out or retire or whatever in the first round, or you went all the way. So what I was thinking, so 6 of them first 10 were ended in the first round by you, all victories.
Yeah.
When you get to a point where a fighter takes you past the first round at that point in your career, you start to worry then, or what?
You know what? Because I was that young, right, and I was just like first getting in there. The adrenaline was probably racing through me. And the first round, I remember I used to go out like an absolute lunatic. So it'd be like, if they survived the first, they'll probably get through it because I'd be goosed. Oh, that's what I used to be like. I used to just fly out like a train and just swing bombs in. But then obviously as you can move up in the levels and the opponents know how to maneuver themselves and they know how to defend and stuff like that, you've got to pace yourself a bit better because you think, if I'm knackered going into the fourth and I've got to do 8 or 10, these could come on strong and bleed and get me. So as time gone on and I learned more and more, I started to calm myself down a bit. Do you know what I mean?
So your 15th fight came your first defeat as a professional. I'm going to have to look at my thing here because I can never pronounce this guy's name properly. Michael Ioraka, something like that, yeah? He was I can never say but he's a tough guy. You put him down in the 9th, though. At that point, you're thinking...
Leading up to that fight, I was... like everyone in my team at the time wanted to pull me out, but I had I had problems from my last spar. I got like in my sternum, I had like problems with that, and it gave me like the worst diarrhea for like 2 weeks leading up to the fight. But then with a couple of days to go, I was like, I'm feeling all right. I'd done all the remedies, like rice, bananas, bread to block it all up, and I was like, no, because I'd never had the opportunity to fight on like box office or anything like that, and this was only with ITV, but I'd never had any like big stage like this, and I thought if I let this opportunity pass me by, someone else is going to get it. And that was probably wrong, but it was just the way my mind was thinking. So I was thinking, I've got to do anything I can to make sure I still fight on this show. And then when the fight started, and I was obviously just bish bash bosh as I was back then, as the rounds went on, I just started depleting more and more, and then leading up to the fight, obviously, it wasn't the best situation. My dad went into hospital that week, and then a couple of days after the fight, he never came. He never came out. He passed away. So I had like a storm of everything that could possibly go wrong in one fight happened to me, and then I even remember going into the hospital after the fight. And I happened to tell my dad I'd lost because obviously he'd been at every other fight leading up to that. And this was the only one he hadn't been. And I'd been beat. And I remember saying, fucking hell, he's more gutted than me. Do you know what I mean? But then I remember him saying, oh, yeah. Because I was like, Dad, I was winning. I was up on all the cards and he just caught me. And he was like, oh, can you get a rematch? I was like, it's in the contract clause, all that. He was like, you'll knock him out in the rematch. I used to say, Dad, you say I'll knock everyone out. That's all you ever say. Do you know what I mean? I could be fighting anyone. He goes, oh, you'll knock him out. Do you know what I mean? But so and then as time went on, obviously my dad passed. I'd had the loss. So I went through a proper bad time at the time. I think it was 6 months before I even wanted to walk into a gym again. And then I think it was 8-9 months later, the rematch came about. And in the meantime, I'd been offered other fights on other TV shows. like on Sky and BT, because I think it was more like they knew I was like a fan favourite the way I fought, and they knew I'd done a load of tickets. And if you fight someone like coming off a loss, is normally a good time to get them. Do you know what I mean? And they wanted their fighters to maybe have my name on their resume.
Yeah.
But I was thinking like, because these other fights were worth more money to me as well. But in my head, I just thought I only lost that fight because of everything that was going wrong. So I ended up getting the rematch. We ended up doing it on a non-TV show, but we still done it at like the Echo Arena at the auditorium, and I packed the place out. We just made like our own Liverpool card, and then.
Mate, you put him down 3 times, didn't you?
Yeah, so I ended up making a statement that obviously what the first one was, everything that was going wrong, I wasn't just talking rubbish. And then from that, the British title come around, and then obviously Eddie Hearn offered me a contract as well. So from then, everything just progressed, like been a snowball effect.
So I was just going back to your football, right? Just right beginning, going back to then your boxing, and then putting on like an England top or whatever. How was beating Glenn Foot? What did that victory feel like? It was for the British title, you're number 1 in England, or at your weight class. That must be some emotional feeling, right?
Yeah, it was quite emotional because I was thinking of my dad and things like that. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, because he always talked about like don't like the levels in boxing, and he used to say like, if you won the British, even if you won the European, and if you'd even fought for a world title, that's something. Do you know, like he had that sort of mentality, just like, and he was always proud of like even the smallest of things. And I used to think like, if he'd have been here now to seen this, do you know what I mean? That was like the first thing in my head I was thinking of. And then when they put the Sky Sports, put the mic to me, I was all emotional and that. I couldn't get my words out. And then I was trying to like speak it. Oh, it was like, when I'm thinking of it now, taking me back, I can feel a lump in my throat talking about it. Do you know what I mean?
No.
But and like in the build up to that fight, like I'd never fought anyone like Glenn, who would like, you could see from the first press conference he was trying to get in my head. Do you know what I mean? Like saying, "You're gonna run like a thief." That's what he said. It was the best saying ever. He's gonna run like a thief and all this, and I was laughing my head off. But I was trying to get involved with the banter, but that wasn't really me. Do you know what I mean? But I couldn't stand someone just giving me pure stick, and because it was up his end, any joke he said, they all laughed their heads off. And if I said something, they were like, boo, boo. So I couldn't win. Do you know what I mean?
And after that, you move into 2019, which a massive year for you, really. 3 fights on 3 big bills, which finished in the Newcastle one, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah.
You go from, it's like what you just said, your dad said, you're going through the stages of getting, you're doing it the right way, you're not just jumping. And I guess the fight with Ritson, that was made over months of having beef and stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah, do you know what? Like, that just like that happened overnight. Like before that, like me and Lewis were pretty sound with each other when we were in different weights. And the second he moved into my weight, it just it was like we knew the rivalry was there straight away. There'd been a few nudges probably to both camps about us fighting each other. And then he just like walked through the back, and he just shouted something, and I didn't say anything at first. But my coach at the time, Dave Tonks, he couldn't bite his lip, and he shouted something back. And then Ritson must have thought it was me, and he spun round, and he said, "What are you saying, you mug," or something like that. And then I, because I couldn't handle him shouting something to my coach, I went in, "What are you saying, you fucking melter?" And the next minute, do you know what? I've never used that word in my life before that, by the way. I think I'd just been watching Love Island too much at the time. That was like a word they were all throwing about. And the next minute, it just escalated, and everyone wanted to see the fight then. And I was like, well, looks like it's on then. Do you know what I mean? And it just built from that. But even like after it, we've never like, don't get me wrong, there's a bit of needle and a bit of prodding every now and again from both of us. Or like, like this, like an interview, someone always asks us about it. Do you know what I mean? We don't bring it up. It's just everyone wants to speak about that fight, and then next thing we were going into October again, and oh god, this is going on.
You're all right, mate. You still, yeah.
Yeah. Next thing we got into October, and the fight was on again. Sorry, my missus is just making the baby a bottle in the background. If you can hear any crying,
that's all right, mate. You want to stop, or are you happy?
No, just carry on. It's all right.
So then the fight. So I won't ask you to talk through like all the fight, but what I will say is a lot of people, even though the scorecards were fairly wide, a lot of people had you winning. Did anything go wrong for you in that fight?
Not like wrong as in thingy. Just tactically. I feel like the build up and like the animosity and all that. People were saying like, "Oh, Ritson's gonna be too strong and he's gonna knock it out." So it don't know, it like played a part on the way I was thinking. And I had like, because everyone knew I was the slicker boxer, and I should have just went in there and like done what I'd done to Glenn Foot. Because of all the build up, I was like, I'm gonna steamroll him. Do you know what I mean? I was thinking I'm just gonna steam into him and let's have it. And as the fight went on, like the first few rounds, and I could feel myself just like I was the bigger and stronger. And because I knew I was physically bigger anyway, because he's only just moved up into the weight. But then as the fight went on, he started fighting, like where Ritson had never done that, he'd always stood in front of his opponents. He started fighting more tactically, like counter left hooks, solid jab, and then move his feet, get that shot what catches the judge's eye. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, when I look back at it, I was thinking, I should have just stumped the gaff out. I should have just bored everyone and just ran away from him and pickpocketed him. Do you know what I mean? Just hit him with little shots and run away.
What, run away like a thief?
Yeah, I should have done that. Should have done what Glenn said.
and then shortly after that, you decided to make a change. But it took you a little bit of time to find the right gym, didn't it? Talk to us about that.
Don't get me wrong, that was hard leaving me gym with first team pro with. Like that was hard, like in the sense of like they were like my best mates as well. Like as you've been with someone like your mates who you grow up with and everything like that, they're your mates. But when you're in a boxing gym and you're with them enough every day of your life, because training wasn't just like, I wasn't a fighter to just train when I was in camp. I lived up there, do you know what I mean?
They become family, don't they?
Yeah, that's what it was like. So I had to separate my personal feelings for them and my career. And I think I had like 2 or 3 coaches in my head who I wanted to train with. And then I had a few other offers as well once people was found out that I wasn't training with the Tonk gym anymore and things like that. And then when I come round to it, I went up to Sheffield with Dominic Ingle because my manager had like his other fighters had done sparring with like Kel Brooks, so they had like a little bit of a relationship. And he said, he told him to come up and have a little go round. And then after a few days up there, don't get me wrong, when I first come in, I was the proper new kid, you know what I mean? Like, even all the other fighters, they wasn't like overly friendly or anything like that, because they'd probably seen, from what I know now, like fighters have walked in that gym and not stayed and got off, like it's just not for them. Because at certain points in the gym, it is like proper regimental. Do you know what I mean? You could be at the gym at 6, then you could be at the gym at 3, and then you could be at the gym at 6 in the night. Do you know what I mean? And he might not tell you until an hour before. Literally, that's how bad it is. He's got you on your toes, and everyone lives up there. Do you know what I mean? And when I went up there and I seen like all the other fighters, and I was like, everyone in here is like a decent level. Do you know what I mean? There was world amateur champions, European champions, mandatory for world titles, former world champions. I was thinking, this is the gym I want to be in. Do you know what I mean? These are the type of fighters I want to be around. I want to be thriving off these type of people. And then with Dom, he was a tough cookie to crack. Like, do you know what I mean? You don't just like break into the good books. You think you've got to earn that. Do you know what I mean? And but over time, like I think I've made the right decision.
You never know. Over time, they might sing a song about you, mate.
Might be a duet. I'm not that bad, you know.
Oh no! So 2020, mate, you become a father. Do you think that'll change your? Do you think that'll change your Well, it's definitely changed your life, but do you think that'll change your attitude towards life?
Do you know what? Like, one of my worst things, I've always put a lot of pressure on myself. Like some big fights, like I don't sleep before them and things like that. I feel like rather than always thinking of what I want in life and appreciating what I've got now, like my little girl and my family, property, things like that. I'm not behind like some people are. Do you know what I mean? I'm definitely winning in the sense of life. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's. I feel like I've took a lot of pressure off my shoulders. It's hard in the sense that, like, because I don't want to miss all this early part of the baby's life. I'm doing a lot of traveling back and forth to Sheffield. Do you know what I mean? Like, where before the baby, I'd just like do a week in Sheffield, come home the weekends. Where now I might do like 2 days in Sheffield, drive home in the middle of the week when we've got an easy session. Might do one session on my own. Then I'll be back up Thursday, Friday for my sparring sessions. Do you know what I mean? Because I do always think to myself, like, I think Dom knows I'm dedicated, whether I'm in our gym or I'm sitting at home. I'm on it 24/7. But the early years you get with your first baby, you'll never get it back. Do you know what I mean? So with the sacrifice I'm making with the traveling, don't get me wrong, it's only an hour and a half. Some people do that just for everyday work. Do you know what I mean? But if you get stuck in traffic, oh my God,
Nightmare, mate.
Soul destroying. I'm not messing. But up to now, like, it's been working well for me. Like, I'm traveling up there about dinner time today. Well, later this evening, I'll travel up to Sheffield because I've got sparring tomorrow. Then I'll probably stay up for a few days, come back, get back there by Thursday, Friday. Do you know what I mean? So,
Mate, do you know what? You'll work out for yourself. You know, the route worked out, so I won't worry too much about it, mate. But no, it's brilliant, mate. Right, so that's us. Apart from, we can normally finish up with a few questions from the followers, which can be horrific. If I'm honest, yours are pretty good. Yours are all right. So, Jimbo, I'll read it from here. Jimbo, what's the best advice you've ever been given? Quite a deep one.
The best advice I'd ever been given. Do you know what? The best one-line advice I've probably ever been given was off Tony Bellew, and he said, "Don't take it personal." Because I used to think like, "Oh, why does he want me to fight in Newcastle? He wants me to get beat." Do you know, like, I used to think like that about Eddie, and he was like, "Nah, he's paying you well. He's giving you a massive platform. If you win, if you're the superstar." Like, always put me in the mind of think of the benefits rather than think of the negatives. And then since then, I've always like I have my personal life and I have my career. Do you know what I mean? Like, so anything that happens in boxing, like if someone's calling me out on social media, I used to get all et up about it and think, I'll wait until I see him, all that. But now I think like it's all just part of the game. Do you know what I mean? And I don't take it personally. Like, someone could be giving me down the banks. If I seen them at a boxing show, I'd still shake their hand. Do you know what I mean? Because I'd probably say to them, you nearly got me to bite that one, but I never. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the fish hooks out.
Yeah, because I remember when I was trying to get my name out there, I used to like him, like John Wayne Hibbert, if you remember him. He was like had a belt at the time, or Ricky Burns was well out of my league when I had like 8 fights, but he was the same weight. And I'd be like just trying to get a mention off them, but they just ignore me. Do you know what I mean? So it's just the same, really. You just learn as you get older, I suppose. So probably the best one-liner I was ever given was probably by Bellew saying, don't take the career personal. Just take it as business.
Good stuff, right? Pez, what's the best and worst thing about being a boxer?
The best thing is probably the healthy lifestyle you get to lead and everything that comes with it. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not rich, but I'm doing well. Do you know what I mean? And I get to do something I love. The worst part is like your social life. Like, I haven't been on a night out with my mates. Could be 18 months. And probably the most you get to see a family is like maybe a quick cup of tea or things like that, because I'm constantly watching me nutrition and things like that. So it's not like I can go out and have a burger with my mum or whatever. So your personal life definitely takes a few dints over the years. Like when they say boxing's a lonely career, like that's definitely what they mean by it, because you spend a lot of time on your own or in the gym.
Good stuff, mate. And Joe wants to know, what's your ambition within boxing? I think every boxer wants to win a world title, no?
Yeah, like I make small term goals. Like my next fight's meant to be for the European title, just waiting for that to get announced. So me small term goals is to get the European title back, get myself back in the world rankings, and then hopefully, like by summertime, get another big fight with maybe a rematch with Ritson, or maybe some sort of eliminator for myself to get myself back up there again.
Good stuff, mate. Right, this is the last question, and it is definitely the most important one I've asked you today. You ready for this?
Let's go.
What are your top 3 chocolate bars?
Oh my days. Top 3 chocolate bars, right? So your first one isn't exactly a bar, but a Terry's chocolate orange, that's number 3.
That's my missus. She can't have Christmas without a chocolate Terry's orange.
Yeah, they're up there. Number 2, I'd go with it. Have you seen that white chocolate caramel?
Yeah.
Oh, that's got to be up there. And then number 1, do you know what?
Whoa, it's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, there's so many running through my head. I've got the sweetest tooth you can imagine. I love a cake and a chocolate bar. You know what? I'd probably go with something like a more classical, but like I just want it to be a massive one, like a Galaxy Caramel. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I couldn't handle one of them normal size ones. It'd have to be like a massive one. So it's like a brick.
Right, Robbie, that's it for us. Have you got anything for your sponsors or the watchers?
Yeah. Well, do you know what? I never normally do this, but I'd just like to thank my sponsors that have stayed with me during the pandemic. Like, some of them have had to let me go because of obviously like businesses and being as good as they have been. But the ones that have kept me going, all I can do is can't thank them enough, honestly.
Spot on, mate. Well, thank you very much. And we'll speak to you again soon, hopefully, once we get a fight arranged.
Yeah, hopefully the fight will be announced sometime soon. It's meant to be at the end of January. Eddie's actually announced that on one of his talk things. I've got it on my social media. I'm just waiting for all the finalisations and just get it socialed.
Happy days, mate. Right, thank you very much. Thanks for your time. All the best, mate.
All right, nice one for that. I appreciate it.
See you later, pal.
See you later.